Welcome to Sir Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable, your guide to mastering the realm of real estate in Central East Florida. I am Sir Lancelot Leonard, ready to uncover the secrets of seller strategies, home staging, mortgage mastery, and more. From Daytona Beach to Cocoa Beach, Lake County to St. Augustine, join me as we navigate the intricacies of real estate. As the leader of the Sir Lancelot Group at Florida Homes Realty and Mortgage, I'm here to arm you with knowledge and innovation, whether you're a seasoned homeowner or a first-time buyer, unveiling the kingdom of real estate, one roundtable at a time. Welcome to today's episode. We have a special guest with us, Tina Andrade, a seasoned realtor with a wealth of experience in the real estate market. Tina is dedicated to helping her clients navigate the complexities of buying, selling, and investing in properties. With a deep understanding of VA loans, assumption loans, and first-time homebuyer programs, she brings invaluable insights to the table. Join us as we dive into her expert advice on the changing market, building real estate portfolios, and much more. Let's give a warm welcome to Tina Andrade.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to get to know you and kind of get to know your followers, and just excited to see what I can bring to the table, and I'm ready to go. So let's dive in.
Hey, Tina, that's awesome. Thank you very much for being here. Tina, can you start by telling us a little bit about your journey in real estate and what inspired you to become a realtor?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I moved to Memphis, Tennessee almost 27 years ago, and I was a single mom, and I was working for property management for a company doing apartment complexes. And when I bought my first house, and I think anybody who got into real estate probably thought this in the beginning, but I looked at my agent's check and silly me thought, oh, they made a lot of money to do this. And that she made almost as much as I do in a month on that one paycheck. And I'm already doing fair housing to do property management. And I thought, I am going to go get my real estate license, and I won't be stuck behind this desk 24/7 is what it felt like, because I was a property manager. And I ran out and got my license in December. I graduated December of 1999.
Wow. So you're
Jan-
seasoned. You're definitely.
January 6th.
Wow.
My first job, January 6th, 2000, I went to work for a company that's no longer around called Vintage Homes for Mr. Charles Morgan, and Pam was his broker. We got to go back to January 2000. We were still running around with our map books. We had our big computers on our desk and a file full of folders. And basically, once you graduate school and you get out there, I went to work for new construction. So I sat in a model some, and, I kind of did it part-time because I kept my regular job. You got to do that going in because you are on commission. And as you're going in, you don't realize, hey, there's no money. You have to sell something. But within 6 months, I had quit my day job. I went in full time. My first year, I sold 61 homes, and it snowballed from there. It was like,
you said 61 homes.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot for your first. Was that your first?
It was new construction, and it was 2000, and it was the booming season, and it was the years of the bad loans, as I call them, and everybody was doing 228s and 327s and these balloon loans, and they were doing step down interest rates. And it was just, I walked in where honestly I was blessed in one way, because you didn't have to know a lot to sell a house. I'm being serious. I know that sounds terrible, but you didn't. I cried at my first contract because I had no idea what I was doing. They told me, just write it, we'll fix it if it's wrong. And then you spend the first year just learning how to write contracts, learning how to negotiate. And the sad thing is, going into new construction, nobody told me the importance of education from that point.
Oh, yeah.
I just knew we had to get our CE. You had to keep it up. You had 16 hours in my states you had to do. And I was doing, for the first couple of years, I was just selling houses and doing the bare minimum because I knew no better. And then I realized, you know what? I got out of doing property management because I didn't want to be stuck. So I'm going to get out of this new construction and go retail sales. That's what I call it. Retail sales. I'm going to sell to buyers. I'm going to sell listings. I'm going to do it all.
Yep.
And for the next couple of years, I kind of mastered doing listings. And by the fifth year, I was doing investment properties and it just snowballed. And then education. If y'all could see this wall behind me, you would understand. And I knew nothing about multi-million dollar clubs, any of that. You got to remember, single mom, just trying to make it in real estate and paying their bills. But I have got about every ABR, CRSRS, PRM, I mean, I have all of them, GRI.
Got all the designations.
I got all the certifications and designations. I have been in the multi-million dollar club. Actually lifetime in all of them. I'm with several different organizations. I'm in several different MLSs. I am licensed in Mississippi, Tennessee, and Arkansas. So I am on several boards. I'm actually a board of director for Memphis right now, and this is my last year serving there. But it's just one of those things where I found out the more you educate yourself and the more you take care of your clients, the better you're going to do. And your competition is yourself and not somebody else.
Correct. Awesome. Like there's plenty of business out there for every single
Right.
in the business. That's what I always say. We shouldn't be at each other's throats on that because there's
Right. Your competition should be being a better agent tomorrow than you were yesterday.
Exactly. I totally agree. That's a great saying. We should frame that. So what do you believe is the most valuable service a realtor provides to their clients?
Honesty and open. That's what you have to be. You have to be open and honest.
Open
And
and
if you
honest.
don't know, you don't know. You agree to find the answer. I think as realtors, we want to have all the answers. And even after 24 years, I don't have all the answers. So it's knowing where to go to find those answers or being willing to research it for your client. Because in the end, that's where your responsibility is to your client.
It is definitely. I totally agree with you on that. Having being honest and open, I've practiced that since I've been a realtor. Before that as well, I'm an Eagle Scout, if you haven't read about that. But honesty is one of our pillars. And from that, you can always build a great relationship and nothing can go really bad as long as everything's clear and on the table. Now, there are some lesser known duties in our business that we do behind the scenes. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on some of those things that people might not know about?
It's so funny because my whole career, I've heard people tell me, oh, I would love to show beautiful homes and get paid because that's what they think we do.
Yeah.
And I have to explain that there's about a 99 list and a 99 problems, and I don't want to be one of them. Okay. So, one of the things that I've explained to them is that when just you, if you are my client, there is somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 40 people in your transaction that you will never see and don't know about, but I'm going to talk to half of them
Yeah.
on your behalf. So behind the scenes, they don't realize that we talk to their lender, the underwriter, sometimes the closer, the title company, which will have its primary person that starts the file, one that works the file, one that ends the file. We have talked to your insurance agent. We have talked to the other agent. We have talked to the inspector and sometimes the appraiser because we may have an issue there. And by the time we've talked to 9 million people behind the scenes and tried to cut out any issues before it comes to you, they have no idea the amount of hours and time and knowledge you have to coordinate, negotiate, and get a contract to the table in the best interest of all parties.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I think that's something that they just don't realize.
That is so true. I mean, just to break away a little bit and go to what's happening in the real estate world right now with this lawsuit, et cetera. And that's why we're emphasizing in the show a lot about what is the value we bring to the table. People don't realize that what we do behind the scenes before the problem actually gets to them, we minimize it so much that whatever gets to their table is not really an issue at that point. Correct? Yeah.
Sorry, I had to turn my phone off. Apologize.
It's okay.
And we don't include, they don't think about the fact of how many times have we went and showed properties and we've spent time away from our families, time away from the things we could be doing for ourselves, putting gas in our car, wear and tear. We hadn't eaten dinner, we haven't eaten breakfast, we're rolling in at 8 o'clock at night, and then we get the phone call, oh, I'm getting transferred to another state, I'm not going to be buying here, and we don't get paid at all.
Yep.
This is not, I understand where we're going in the new lawsuits and everything that have come out. And honestly, at this point, I don't feel like they're a bad thing.
No, I
What
think
it's,
it's a great thing.
here's what I'm telling you is that we've always had a fiduciary responsibility, and it's all for here. I know in the states I'm in, we've always had to have a buyer's agreement that said, this is how much you're agreeing to pay us. On the flip side, we've always had a listing agreement that said, hey, you understand you're paying a certain percentage and you're giving me permission to split this in a certain way that's in writing in our states
It's in our
and says, hey, we're going to co-op with that buyer's agent. I think where we've gotten off point is that the buyer's agreement, if it said that they were agreeing to pay I'm going to use numbers, and I know this is probably not good at some points, but understand all numbers are
fiction.
negotiable.
This is
These are
fiction.
fiction numbers. So commission has been and always will be negotiable, just like inspection reports have been and always have been negotiable.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we're not changing the way we're doing business. We're doing it the way it's always meant to be. There's just now a law that says we have to do it that way.
Exactly.
That's where we are. A buyer's agreement, you cannot represent a client. They are not a client without a buyer's agreement. They are a customer. There is a difference. And that's where we need to make sure that the public understands that when we're requesting those forms.
Oh,
I
yeah.
cannot represent you without legal representation being signed between us.
Yeah.
Period.
I have a question that we can tie in here, and it's about the evolving real estate market and how it's been doing in the last few years. I think it's a perfect time to put that out there and tell me about your experience from starting in 2000s all the way till now, how we evolved to where we are. We are an ever evolving, all the millions and millions of people having their licenses and working as realtors in the country. And I think we are one of the fairest of them all as well out there in the world as in the real estate market, and the most transparent, that's for sure, because the buyer and the seller all get to see all this data that we have out there about their houses, what they're purchasing, the inspections, etc. I come from a small country called Hungary. I grew up in Budapest, and I'll tell you one thing, it's only one-sided. There is no buyer side and seller side. There is a listing guy that represents the seller, and you as a buyer go in and you represent yourself. And most of the time, you are getting screwed. You have no idea what you're doing.
And I think here the way and things have changed. Like I said in the beginning, we drove around with a book. We hand wrote all of our contracts. We were not doing electronic signatures. That's been a big change that's come across. I remember when you had to go sit down and meet somebody, sign it, and then you had to run over and give it to the other agent. The agent had to go meet theirs. They had to sit down and sign it. It took days. Now we're getting contracts in 24 hours. We're finished. We've negotiated the contract in less than 24 hours a lot of times. That would have never been done in the early 2000s. The public did not have the ability to go online when I first started. Everything came from the agent. So your comps came from the agent. You couldn't go to online services and say, "Oh, my house looks like it's worth 305,000, but on this one it says it's worth 340,000, so I should be between three." Now the public has so much knowledge on what they think is available out there that as an agent, we have to say, "Yes, but those numbers are all computed through a computer." And what we have to do as agents is say, what can I bring to you as value by telling you exactly what the market is and pulling into your own MLS system where your data is, because things that are shot out across the country, it's not always correct. I've had my own listings put in and it'll tell you that the house is 10,000 square feet. And I'm like, it's 1,200 square feet. It'll tell you that the land is a certain thing. It'll have the bathroom counts wrong because the internet's only as good as the mistakes a human puts in, or at some point or another, or the algorithm that it picks up. Correct. So you still need an agent locally to be able to pull your house, get into your neighborhood, and really tell you what's going on. The value is still there. We just have to explain that everything on the internet is not true.
That is so right. And I always also say that there's agent to agent interaction, and that's a key to getting a deal smooth and done.
Absolutely.
you can't do that with all the egos that can get involved in
Right.
action. You got a seller that it's my best house ever. My kids grew up here. You look at the drawings on the door frame of the height of the kids. This is sentimental for them. Obviously.
Right.
That's why you need an agent to represent them
To take the emotion out of it.
exactly
Because selling and buying is
Yeah.
emotional.
It is.
Especially, and it's not even though it is a business transaction, it is not a business transaction. All right. Money is involved, a lot of money. And I don't care if you're buying a $50,000 house or a $5 million house, that's what you can afford. And it's a lot of money to you. Okay. And I treat all of them equally in the same because I understand that fact. However, it's not emotional for us. So we are able to go in and help them look at it from a non-emotional side and say, all right, I understand that light means a lot to you, but the new buyer, we can't tell them they can't change that light, that it has to stay for the rest of the life of this house, because once they buy it, it becomes their property and they may not want a light there. And, and on the flip side, we have buyers that they're like, hey, I want the bench out front. Well, the bench belonged to their grandfather. You can't have the bench. It's personal property.
Exactly.
So a lot of times we as agents have to come in and have to negotiate things that are kind of crazy. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've negotiated cows, tractors, I mean, it's normal for refrigerators, washers, and dryers, but then it gets into we're negotiating the patio furniture and,
Oh, yeah. I've been through that part. Furniture for sure. Now I have a boat that's part of the deal. But I'm selling boats too.
Lawnmowers, we negotiate lawnmowers. I mean, it's one of these businesses where I tell everybody, I said, we're part therapist. Sometimes people just need you to listen. And we have to learn to listen because as realtors, we love to talk. And one of the biggest assets we can have is learning to listen.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes it's not really what they're saying, it's the emotion behind it, and you have to get around that.
Of course. Tina, what strategies would you recommend to the buyers in this current market? How can they navigate the market conditions? What would you tell them would work best?
Okay. Right now, I know people are going to not like what I'm going to say, but we are coming back to a normal market. That's where we are. So finally, it is not a complete seller's market, and buyers do have a little bit of negotiating room now that we didn't have 2 years ago. We went through a crazy time with COVID and low inventory and low interest rates, and people were paying above and beyond for houses. But now I feel like we have hit a very neutral area where buyers do have the opportunity to negotiate in repairs, to ask for some closing cost, to, you still can't go in and look at a house above your means and expect them to come off 50,000 and pay everything for you. We are not in that market. Sellers are not desperate. They still are sitting on good interest rate houses. They're not going to do that. But I do think we're in a fair market now where we do have negotiating room on the buyer's behalf. So I would say for a buyer, discuss what you are considering would be a good offer and do you need earnest money? Are you looking for a home inspection? Are you looking for a newer home? Are you looking for a historical home? Because those are going to be totally different how we negotiate and navigate. So it's really having an agent who knows their market, knows the houses, and knows how to negotiate from new construction to historical. Because I'm going to tell you, those are two totally different negotiations.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that educating your buyer on what to expect and you being on the same page before you ever look at a house will help that process be smoother.
Oh, for sure, Tina. Thank you. And what should a VA buyer keep in mind when searching for homes in this market?
For VA buyers, that's another thing. See, this is where I think realtor education is so important because you need to know how each one of these loans are affected. VA buyers are not much different than having an FHA or a USDA loan. They all are government backed loans and they all require approximately the same things in a home, which is going to be that we are not going to look at a house with peeling paint unless we're under the assumption that the seller is going to be willing to repair that. It's far different from a conventional loan or a bank loan. Those three are government loans, and they're going to look, they do want you to have a stove in place. If you're looking at a house and the stove is missing, you're going to have that conversation with the other agent. Broken windows, they won't let you have broken windows. If there's more than 3 steps, there needs to be a stair rail. So there are certain things as a VA buyer, we know when we're looking at a home, if we're a agent that has been trained in VA loans,
Yeah.
to be able to know to go in and say, I see a couple of things that I'm going to have to talk to the other agent about before we make an offer, because I already know these are things that are going to come up in your VA loan. Now, can I catch everything? No, I'm not an appraiser, but the basics of knowing what a VA, FHA, USDA loan is going to require is something that your agent needs to know going in, so they can educate you and say, if you love this home, let me call that agent now. Let me see if they're open to these repairs, because I know this could be a kicker at us when we get the appraisal.
Yeah, up in sort of down in our area, it's a lot of WDO stuff usually. Wood rot, putty,
Can't have
paint,
wood
paint,
rot.
paint.
Yeah.
So it's a
And
big thing down
ours
here.
here, that's us. It's usually the rotten wood and the stair thing gets us a lot.
Yeah, the stair thing. I had that happen on it was a mobile home that a VA buyer was buying it. They're 22 years old. I always love helping 22-year-olds buy their first home. It's one of the best satisfaction in the world, especially if they're a veteran. I'm like, holy cow, you've done your service. You want to buy a home. You're starting a family, kids on the way. Let's get this done for you. And a lot of times I end up paying for stuff because I just love the fact that a 22-year-old has the responsibility of
Right.
buying a house. Like
Right. I
amazing.
know. And it's tougher these days, because I bought my first home, my first brick and mortar. I bought a mobile home first when I was 17. And then at 19, I bought my first brick and mortar. I mean, that was in the 80s. So let's face it, it's a lot harder these days.
Oh yeah.
But I will say, if everybody wants to talk about interest rates and how hard they are at 7%, my first home was 11.9. My
So
second brick and mortar was at 13.4 in the
okay, so
80s.
I think there's a really good question I have here for you for just exactly this, and it's called assumption loans. You're an expert in assumption loans.
Okay.
How do assumption loans work, and how can they benefit homeowners looking to sell their current homes, or how can it benefit the buyer that's trying to buy the home? Tell me.
Okay, so this is a great question, because there are several loans that are assumable. VA loans are assumable, some FHAs, some conventionals. I mostly deal with VAs, so I'm going to go with the VA assumable loan just so you can get the background on that. They are not fast. I want to tell you that. They take at least 60 days to close, when we're usually in a 30-day market. So the way they work is, if you have a VA loan, and I do have one going right now at 2.65%, and the buyer buys your house, let's say, and not going to use exact numbers of my house, but let's say you're selling for 500,000 and you owe 450,000 on the house. You have 27 years left on your loan at 2.65. They buy the house at the 500,000. They have to pay the difference of 50,000 cash. They assume the 450,000 left and the 27 years left on the loan. They have to apply with the bank that you have the loan at. So if you're with First Franklin, Penny Mac, Wells Fargo, whoever it is, so they do have to apply. It is a little bit of a process. You have to get a contract. The owner of the house has to send that contract into their bank with a letter stating that they are allowing the purchaser to assume the loan if they get qualified. Then it takes about a week for them to process that, and then they'll send out an application to the buyer. And then the buyer fills it out, goes through the whole process of getting approved with the bank that has your loan. Now, here are some things you need to know with an assumable when they do that. A, the buyer still has to qualify like anything else. B, there's no appraisal because they're assuming your loan. And C, if you are a veteran, you can only do this with another veteran and keep your VA benefits so that you can purchase your next home, because you have to have your VA claim off of that loan and theirs put on it. So you can allow someone to assume it with an FHA and come in, but you're going to lose your benefits, your VA benefits, because they will stick to the house.
Yeah.
Okay, until it's paid for. But if another VA buyer is buying it, then their actual VA benefits can attach to it, and you can retain yours to move on and buy another property. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense to me, Tina. I think that's amazing. And you could do that in certain conventional loans, FHA loans, et cetera.
You
correct?
just have to know if and you can call your lender and your service provider, and they can tell you whether your loan is assumable. If you do not have the papers, can't find them, but they tell you in your closing whether you have an assumable loan or not.
So,
And go ahead.
you finish.
I started to say, and if it is, you just have to know whether that is going to be a benefit to you. And I always say it is, because it gets you out, it gets them in a good interest rate. You usually get more for your house that way as well.
Yeah,
I mean, I know my clients ended up getting about 35, 40,000 more than we probably would have on a standard market. But
correct.
it also saves that buyer, in our particular case, over 300,000 in accrued interest over that 27 years.
Yeah.
And so it is a benefit for both. And you just have to be able to negotiate like any other deal. It just takes a little bit longer, and there are a few extra steps in there.
Now, I have kind of like a spin off of this. Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about investments and investment portfolios. So, can an investor assume a loan of a conventional loan for a purchase? And because I know you work with a lot of investors as well. So,
I do. I build tons
these
of
for,
portfolio.
yeah.
Okay, so most investment loans, because they are investment and they're non-owner occ, are not assumable.
Ah, gotcha.
However, there is a different route you can take, and there is some risk to it, but it is a type of assumable loan, I guess you could say. They assume it, but the loan stays in your name.
Subject to.
It's a subject to, yes. And so there are several subject twos going on right now. I actually have 18 of them going.
Wow. I had a listing with a subject to. I couldn't sell it. It had too many issues. So,
Okay, well, I have a package of 18 that's on a subject to right now. They're all individual loans. And the loan actually stays in the original borrower's name. They do a subject to, which is a normal closing, normal warranty deed. They actually pay directly to the servicer. But if they do not pay, it rolls back onto you as the seller, because they are still in your name. They come back to you as your responsibility, and there is a risk to a subject to. Now, most subject twos have a call off period, a balloon period. They don't do it for the life of the loan like you do an assumable. Normally there is a 3, 5, 10, whatever y'all agreed to, but there is a balloon. They're only going to be subject to for so long, and they have to refinance.
okay.
So that is doing some of them right now, and I've done them in the past. I'm dealing with several subject twos right now, which is kind of crazy to have that many at once, but I do.
18. That's a lot.
A lot.
18 deals is a lot in itself. Now, having 18 subject to deals, it's a little bit more complicated than a regular deal, is even bigger. You probably have a big team helping you.
Nope. I have an assistant. I do have an assistant, and I do have a buyer's agent. I have 2 of those that work for me when I need them.
Yeah.
I have one in Tennessee and one in Mississippi. Oh, and I do have a Hispanic gentleman that is my buyer's agent. I have one in Tennessee and one in Mississippi. So I do have help when I need it for on the buyer side, but I handle all the listing sides myself. I have 16 of those right now outside of my package of 18 that's on a subject to. So I'm just a very organized person.
Yeah, you got to be organized for this. I think my top was 17 deals at once that I was handling by myself, no assistant, no transaction coordinator, everything done by myself, and still putting new ones under contract.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's a lot of work. And I know that. It's a lot of
It is.
organization, talking to people. You're like, you have to be on top of each transaction, knowing what's going on in each transaction. Checklist, exactly.
Checklists. And I have a checklist for everything: listing side, buying side, for the type of loan it is. I have one for investors. So there's a complete checklist, and it's keeping up with all the different closing attorneys' offices too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my Lord. I mean, because, if you're working, I work 17 counties. So I literally have probably 10 different title companies that I work with according to where they're purchasing their home. But I have set up very good communication with one person per office, because I feel like it gets too overwhelming when you have 3 or 4 people in an office you have to talk to. So I make sure I have one good contact in every office and then have them contact within their office to keep us all in loop. So it is definitely putting a process in place, having your checklists and trying to stay as organized as possible and living off the calendar on this phone,
Yeah,
because everything's on the, if it's not on the calendar, I'm not doing it.
exactly. I mean, Tony Robbins says that once it's written down and in your calendar, it's real.
It's real.
It's a dream and a plan and it only becomes real once it's in ink in your calendar today.
That's true. That
That.
is true.
So,
I agree.
Tina, you mentioned that you have a free seller and buyer book. Could you tell us more about what the listeners can expect to find in these books and how they can access them?
Okay. The buyer's book is going to go over the different types of loans that are available. And it's going to talk a little bit about them local grant programs and how they can look for those, and that they can call me, of course, directly for that. It is explaining to them the money they need to get started, because a lot of them think when they're getting 100% financing, they need no money. So it goes over insurance, how to get insurance. It goes over inspections, the type of inspections: home inspection, termite inspection, septic inspection, wells, pools, just the different things they need to ask about. It goes over things about how to get ready not to go purchase anything, not to take out any new credit cards, how to maintain living their life as the same standard and not changing that during the process, about how they can't change jobs or quit jobs during the process. So it just gives them the little details about how to prep themselves to get prepared to buy a home.
Right.
And then what to expect during the process of buying the home, the steps of putting an offer in, negotiating, inspections, appraisals, closings, all that. So it goes through that for the buyer's book. And of course, on the listing side, it talks about prepping their home. It talks about how to get the most for your money. I always say the more floors and the more countertops I can see, the more money we're going to get, because we live one way. We live one way, we sell another.
Yeah.
So it goes through how to put boxes together and start a donation box, a packing box, and the things that you have to keep while you're still living there. We still got to have our toothbrush, we know that, but we may not need the 10 extra ones in the drawer. Let's go ahead and start getting things packed up, put away neatly. It also goes over the items that are necessary to leave with the home, like the stove and the built-in microwave. It talks about if you have something that is sentimental to you that you may think wouldn't go with your house, but it does because it's attached, that we would want to remove that prior to pictures and prior to listing. So it gives them that detail of how to prep and how to remove items that they don't want to go with the house.
Correct. Oh, that's
I mean,
awesome.
even though it may be beautiful and it may look great in the picture and you think it's going to bring somebody in, if you're not going to leave it, we need to remove it. So, and it goes over lock boxes, how they work, showings, how that works. So those books just prep you.
Yeah, how to prep your home for showings, how to prep your home for an open house, how to
Right.
leave your house when you leave it during the day. So when we go show it, it's in a good shape. I always say this is not the time to save a penny on your light bill. It is a time to keep all your lights always on when you have showing scheduled for the day.
Oh, absolutely.
If you don't have anything scheduled, that's not a biggie. But if you have something scheduled, leave the lights on, have the AC down at a good temperature so people can say that, oh, it's cold in here, at least in Florida,
Yeah, here too. The humidity and the heat will get you.
Yeah,
so if you walk in and it's cold, they're like, oh, thank goodness the air works.
I'm
And
so happy that I wrote a book on this too, by the way. It's the one right here behind me.
Gotcha.
And I think it is vitally important for the sellers to have an agent that knows these things, because you could have the guy that goes in and tells you, yeah, I'll list it for whatever you tell me to list it at, and I'll just put it in the MLS and I'll get a professional photographer. But it is the truth, as you said, and the honesty that comes from us agents is like, look, do you want the truth, or you want me to just agree to whatever you say,
Oh, no. And I've always said, I know that the truth hurts sometimes. I have a very good client. I'm going to give you a story. Was at her house yesterday. I've sold several of her homes. And I looked at her and I said, you were not as prepared this time. And she said, I know. I said, we talked because I've already been to the house a month ago. They're moving out. They bought another home and I love her to death. And I've, like I said, she's become a friend. I've sold too many of her houses at this point. And I said, without using her name, I said, oh, girl, I said, I thought these floors were going to be stained. And didn't we talk about the scratches from the dogs around the window sills and stuff? I can't get $630,000 for this house unless we finish doing what we talked about. And she said, I know it's going to be done. But that's where I'm talking about honesty. It's
Yeah.
not trying to be mean. I can love you to death, but the market's going to talk. And if I'm going to do my job, then we have to work together and you have to do yours.
Correct.
You know, we can discuss not doing those things, but that's going to discuss how much we're not going to get for your house. So when I go in, believe me, I'm not trying to be mean to my sellers. I'm looking at it, I try to look at it from a buyer standpoint. And I'm going to say, hey, they're going to think it's going to cost $5,000 to paint these walls. We know we can do it for $1,200. So why don't we do it and get our $5,000? Because
Exactly.
what most people don't realize is I flip houses.
Yeah.
I know the cost of construction. I know the cost of paint. I know what a painter costs. Certain things, I'm just like, let's do. I know what just cleaning the house from top to bottom professionally will get you in dollars.
Yeah.
So we want to clean it because dirty baseboards and dirty windows, they take dollars off. Well, we want to keep the dollars. So I kind of look at it from let's see how much we can do that doesn't cost us money, but will make us money. And then we'll go into the parts that we might have to put a few dollars out on.
Yeah.
So
That is awesome. Tina, is there anything else you'd like to share with us, with our listeners about real estate, or do you have any projects or events you'd like to promote or is coming up?
the main thing I want to tell people is if you're in the market to buy a house, don't wait thinking the grass is going to be greener tomorrow. Because if you buy, I'm hearing a lot about interest rates. And if you buy today at the interest rate you have today, and that interest rate goes down in a year or two, and you refinance for a lower payment, that is fantastic. You've done a great thing and you've got the house you wanted. You didn't wait till the prices went up and you're still in the same position because when interest rates go down, prices go up. But if you buy that house today and the interest rates never go down and they continue to go up, now who's the hero that owns their home at a lower interest rate?
Correct.
So I'm just telling people you can't fear the market because I've spent 24 years with the ups and downs, and real estate is always going to be forever changing. So don't wait till tomorrow to do what you want to do today.
That's correct. Thank you very much, Tina, for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. I want to see you again because I think you have so much knowledge to share with the people. I had more questions. We're running out of time. So I didn't
No, you're fine. You're
have time
fine.
to ask all my questions. But for sure, I would like to have you again if that's okay with you. I'll tell the
Absolutely.
guys, we'll schedule you up again and we can go talk about more VAs and first-time home buyers and all the other amazing things and do. And thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Sir Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable, where we've unveiled the mysteries of real estate together. Remember, in this kingdom of possibilities, every dream home is just a discussion away. I can help your real estate dreams come true. Just call me at 786-449-7518. Until our next roundtable, may your ventures be prosperous and your homes be filled with love and joy. Farewell, fellow knights of real estate.